All right, welcome back to What Up Sports, where real coaches and real athletes talk about the game beyond the game. Today, we're diving into something every athlete, no matter what level, has to deal with now: social media. Back in the day, you performed for the crowd in the stands. Now you're performing for a global audience before, during, and after the game. Highlights, hot takes, brand deals, TikToks, Instagram, lives, it's nonstop. So before we get into it too far, Chris, could we introduce our panel today?
Absolutely. Hey, we've got Tony Gomes, phenomenal hitting coach down in Southern California, former Saddleback assistant coach. We got Joe Connie, the strength and conditioning coach at Kenyatta College. And joining us for the first time, the phenomenal Brian McRae, folks. Gotta love that. He played for the Royals, Cubs, Mets, Rockies, and Blue Jays. Hey, Brian, thank you for joining us. I'm Chris. That's Rob. We're going to have some fun tonight, everybody.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
I love this. I love this. What a great panel we have tonight. Hey, you guys can jump in as you need, but we're going to start right off with the big question we're asking today. Is social media helping athletes build their brand, or is it hurting their focus, their development, or even their mental health?
Well, I'll go first
Go
on
ahead,
that.
Brian. Get it.
I think that it's doing all across the board that you said, depending on that player. You know, there's some guys that I've seen. I coached at the University of Missouri in 2017, and at the high school level in 2018, and also at the college level in the college Whitbat Summer League. And I saw guys that spent too much time trying to build their brand and not enough time on making a brand as far as being a ball player. And it hurt them. But I also saw some guys that really helped themselves out, not only in the baseball circles, but in whatever they were doing or they wanted to do after ball, business-wise, by being good on social media and knowing the right things to do and how to make connections and things like that. So I think there's a place for it. I just don't think kids realize how to use it in the proper fashion.
I have to agree with that. Absolutely. And I got to go with it, kind of goes both ways as well. I mean, we interviewed Randy Villazon with Fast Pitch Media and Baseball Media, and he does some phenomenal stuff getting players recruited. He's got over 1,000 players recruited right now. And how he does it is he puts full videos together, puts it out on social media, puts it out on YouTube. And when I mean social media, I mean all of them. And these players are getting seen, which I think is phenomenal. And they have to put on there all of their social media so the college coaches, college recruiters can follow them and see what they're doing. Now, on the other hand, I mean, that's the positive stuff. They can see what these players are contributing before they go and decide to recruit them. But then on the other hand, as we all know, way back when, you know, you have that wonderful red cup in your hand or doing other vicarious things, it can hurt you real bad. And now with NIL, you could lose a lot of money, you know? So just throwing that out there.
I would prefer kids not have it, especially in high school, until they get on the college level and just let your work speak for itself while you're in high school. That's where you'll build your brand.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you go to college, then you can start exploring ways to enhance it social media wise.
Yeah, we got another couple coaches here, Coach Gomes and Coach Conti. Both of you guys, you know, you guys are dealing with some of these kids, you know, and are you seeing the social media affect your players? You know, are they trying to get more of the highlights than the actual game performance?
Oh,
Yeah, I go ahead, Joe.
No, I was basically saying I see it every day. You know, I see players that are just so in tune with their individual stats that it kind of overtakes what the game is all about. I do feel like social media is a phenomenal tool. Like there's a lot of great tools out there in life that we can use. And I think social media is used, especially a recruiting tool early in a lot of these kids, boys, girls, etc. I just feel like it got out of hand. It got out of hand really quickly. Promoting these kids, putting extra pressure on these kids for performance and staying at that level. So when these kids dip and they don't have their highlight reels, they spiral. And so, I definitely think it affects their mental health, not so much as a positive. I think it's at a negative as well. So this is my view on it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm seeing, being at the junior college level, I think guys, the way you're going to brand yourself is by your game. There's none of our guys are getting those NIL deals. Become a Division I player first. You want to build your brand. You got to go and put the numbers up. I mean, you got to work hard. You got to work hard in the classroom. You got to work hard in the weight room. You got to be the first one to field, last one to leave. You know how I feel about those guys. I don't think any of our guys should be affected by social media at the moment. And like what Chris said, I mean, it just takes one TikTok of slamming down a solo cup to lose a scholarship. And so I think it's negative for our level of the game, but I can see how it could be beneficial if you're a D1 player and you're a drafty dude and you're going to start making that type of money. That's when I think the social media thing can be a positive for you. But I see a lot of time wasted on things that, where's your priority at? Your priority should be your game, like just period. If you want to be that guy, your game has to come first, and then you can go ahead and promote yourself moving forward.
Something that I've seen a little more and more is with the social media out there, it seems like they're going away from team and more I. And I think that's making all these young players, it's more difficult to understand that team concept and what it does and how it comes together. On the other hand, on softball and on women's basketball, I'm seeing more of the team coming together than the individual because it seems like there's more. How do I put this? Give me a second here. I got so many thoughts going through my head. I think what it is they want to do more together and get their message out there. And that's just what I'm noticing and what I'm picking up going through social media every day. I know, going through social media every day.
I see the same thing. I see the same thing. And because my daughter's in college playing and I see, I'm around the boys playing, I think, yeah, the girls tend to have this together message really well. And if they love each other, they play well together. And I think that's what we're seeing throughout social media on the softball side. Nothing taken away from the boys side, but I just feel like some of these guys, definitely pay a lot of attention of that a little bit too much. I feel like just focus on the game, and those results will speak volumes.
Hey, Brian, a quick question for me on the same kind of thought process here. As a Major League Baseball pro athlete, and what the show is today, the game is today, and you talk to the youth now, is there anything that you feel that you can share with them to help them, keep the focus, the mental focus, maybe, some of that, digital discipline is the word I'm going to use. Do you ever get to talk about that with anybody?
Yeah, we do, because they'll ask, how would we have handled being in this social media age? And I probably would not have had any presence on social media. Or if I did, it would be in the off season and I wouldn't have it when I played, because there's enough distractions going on during the year and the negativity that comes with just being a ball player and playing every day. You're going to have terrible games. You're going to have good, you play too many games for things to be smooth all the time. And that noise from the outside, if you're on social media a lot, you're going to get that negativity, and you hear it enough, it's going to drag you down a little bit. So I probably, if I had a social media presence, I wouldn't do much in season. I'd do some stuff maybe in spring training. I would cut it off during the season and do some stuff in the off season, but I couldn't imagine trying to be social media savvy and being an everyday player in the big leagues, and everything that you get thrown at. If you stay on social media, you have a bad game or have a bad week and the team's playing bad, and you get all that negativity thrown at you, how you can handle that. So I think that it's something that the kids need to understand and understand that what's out there, and that negativity can't do anything but bring you down mentally because you're hearing all these bad things about you.
Yeah, you know, Brian, I want to jump on that because, you know, I went through some of your social media, and you talked about the fact that we played in the right era. And I think all of us here can talk about the fact that we didn't have the same pressures that these kids have now today. And, you guys as coaches and stuff now, and having been players, do you think that there needs to be some form of social media policies with your teams, or do you have social media policies?
I think certain teams, when I was at Missouri, we had, they had social media sessions and seminars that they did for the team and for the guys if they were going to have a large presence, and things, not what to do, what not to do, things of that nature. But that just adds another layer on things that takes away from you being a student athlete and trying to be the best that you can be in the classroom and on the field when you're worried about all these other things. I try to eliminate as many of those distractions as possible, as much as possible, especially during the season.
Yeah. What I want to kind of go back just a minute. I think that with the social media back when you were playing and back when I thought I could play, I think that you have that sports writer and he wants to write something good or bad about you, and it seems like they tilt most of the time because they want that controversy, they want people reading, they want the recognition. So I think they would write more negative on players than the positive and go from there. And I would equate the social media of today to possibly being that back then.
I think definitely if you look at social media, it's probably 60-40 negative to positive, and maybe even more towards maybe 70% the negative thing. The negative thing gets the most attention, as almost always. You do one or two things wrong, and you can do 100 things right. The negative is some of the things that stand out the most. The big thing is we're still fairly new on how this affects the mental health of our young men and women, or boys and girls. Now I have an 18-year-old daughter. She's not into sports. She'll be going to college next year. But I see how they, at that age, how they interact or don't interact with each other because of social media, and they do everything on their phones. So we're still trying to figure out the best way to navigate through all this.
It makes it being a kid that much more difficult with social media in general. Just it was so much more, here to here. We pick up the phone, we tell you, hey, what's up? We have a relationship. We talk to each other. I think we establish our identities earlier. We have this more awkwardness about us right now because of social media, and it's definitely different. And I do see social media getting better, in sports, just because we have such fantastic people running social media. Like at Kenyatta, we have an incredible person who's in charge of our social media, who puts up all the highlights and really, embraces the team and shows the spirit and does everything they can so, we can get these athletes on the map and further their career. But, drawing back to how negative social media is, I want to 70%. It might be a little bit light. Like, I think the reaction of these influencers and these people on social media, they like negativity. Negativity is what gets attention, and they don't care who's on the other side of it. And that's where the mental health thing is pretty scary. And I see a lot of kids dealing with that.
When we were kids, really didn't talk about mental health at all. I mean, we just dealt with it and got through it, and that was it. And, you know,
Yep.
we'd go up and we'd punch our friend, say, "Hey, you dick, what the hell are you doing?" You know, just kind of stuff like that. Now they don't do that anymore. I mean, they're more introverts than extroverts, and you you don't really see that interaction between friends. At least what I'm seeing and how I've seen, you just see different types of interactions now. More this than
Hmm.
anything else.
Yeah, I agree with Joe said, and I'm glad, you know, at Saddleback, you know, we do the same thing that Kenyatta's doing. We put somebody in charge to capture all the. We got a photographer guy takes amazing photos of the guys and posts it, and we have a person that runs our social media also. So the guys don't really. They're getting social media taken care of for them so they can do their job. And, you know, when you're playing a game, baseball, the game is already based on failure. You know, you got to be able to mentally tough and handle failing. And on top of that, when you're hearing all this negativity on social media and stuff, I mean, it just plays a complete mind game with you mentally when you're just supposed to be locked in on, you know, doing your job and, you know, performing for your teammates and doing all those things and playing a negative game. You know, people don't understand you have to be okay with failing as a baseball player and then having to hear the negativity coming from it. It's harder to get through your slumps and your things that you're going to go through when you if you're focused on all that negativity and what people have to say about you. So we have somebody do it for us so our guys can focus on going and winning state championships. That's their job.
So is there a more undue pressure for you guys as coaches, or is it, you know, Brian talked about the fact that this is new. We haven't had to deal with this before. So one thing I'm always thinking of is that, you know, winning heals, right? So if you're winning, you know, everybody's happy and all that stuff. But if you're losing or you're in a slump or anything like that, how are you, you know, you know, light bulbing on to the fact that maybe somebody is struggling even beyond the field? You know, social media can be so brutal when you're negative as well. And, you know, I mean, we're reaching a little outside the scope of the social media, but at the same time, it kind of nailed right into it as well. So as coaches and stuff, are you guys noticing it more? Are you more attuned, or is it so new and fresh to you that you haven't even had a chance to like grasp the concept?
Well, I think me as a coach, I'm aware of more of what's going on, and I'll tell guys if we're, you know, having a team meeting or something like that before the game, like, where are your phones? You know, turn your phone off. You know, don't have the phone on and record anything that's going on in the locker room or and I never, you know, you didn't have to worry about that before, but that's something that I acted like this is not to be recorded. You know, where I'm talking to you guys, this doesn't need to go outside of here and record. You know, just things like that that you never had to think about before, and you might have to say, hey, you know, we can record this. This is cool. We're talking about, you know, honoring a guy or doing something like that. This is kind of cool. This is okay. This is not okay. You know, don't put the phones away for this, but you can record this. You know, so those are some things that I think as coaches you have to be a little bit more aware of what's going on and how you address the team in certain situations.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, like Brian just said, you know, it's there's a time and a place for everything. Our guys aren't allowed to have their phones on the field, and they stay in the clubhouse and they stay in their lockers. And you know what we talk about, you know, it stays in house. You know, we don't want to be tipping our cap about anything. We don't want to be giving away too much. So yeah, I don't even want phones in our dugouts. They're not allowed. You just nip it in the bud. Each program's going to run their program the way they run it, and your system and your things are the way you do your things. Us, we just don't allow it. There's a time and a place for everything, and it's just not allowed in our dugout.
I've heard of some football teams, what they'll do is before their pre-practice meeting, they'll take everybody's phones, put them in a box, cover the box up, and it goes in an office locked so nobody can touch them from the time that meeting starts to the end of practice.
That's a great idea. When I was doing football at Carmont, we did the same thing with our guys. It's really effective. I think it really works.
We never had to take our guys' phones because if we see a phone, they know what comes with that. So as far as being a coach, you have a way of handling things when rules are broken, and the guys don't want the garbage can practice, so they definitely follow the rule.
Truth.
You know, it's kind of funny. We just had a guy, was it last week, and sliding into third base, and his phone fell out of his pants.
Mm.
You know, and that just hurts us as coaches because those kids are seeing that and thinking, "Oh, he had his phone out on the field," you know, and
If
so
he
it just
doesn't
makes it
write
even
that
harder
off.
for us. It just makes it harder for us.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys kind of want to share on this topic? Because you know, we've been actually hammering this really well. This is going really well on what we're talking about. It's such a hard conversation because it is a negativity of the sport, but it's also a really important one. So if anybody's got anything else to share, is there anything like maybe even just a piece of advice that you would give a young athlete today about social media? Because I know they need it for their benefit, you know, but also, you know, anything that if somebody's watching this, that you have an advice on how to just, you know, protect yourself with that as well.
I
If
definitely
you're
feel
gonna
like
do things, always put yourself in a good light if you're gonna do things. And you know, just watch. If you're gonna be on social media a lot, you need to watch how you brand yourself and who you surround yourself with and things like that nature. You have to be a lot more conscious of what you're doing daily if you're going to post yourself all over the place and you know you're trying to get a college scholarship.
I agree with Brian, and I also want to say that I think, you know, going into these kids, you know, early in their travel ball when coaches are talking to them about recruitment, and then part of recruitment is trying to get their clips out, you know, of their game. I think, you know, at home there needs to be more of a discussion, mom, dad, child, or maybe an outside influence who can really direct them through, you know, the highs and lows of social media, and kind of consult with them like, hey, what do you think of this? Should I send this out, or should I not send this out? You know, like because I think there's been a lot of situations in the past that's really helped a lot of kids get on the map and get seen, but I also seen a lot where it's hurt kids. And I think the kids are not doing it, the parents are coming in and kind of sabotaging that for the child. And I feel like, you know, if they're learning it that way, you know, initially, and then once they get older and they start really having their own handle on social media, they're going to be reckless about it. I think there just needs to be a little bit more discussion. Is that, you know, as a coach, you know, team managers, everything else, it definitely needs to be part of the discussion when you join a team environment.
Yeah, my advice would be, you know, like you guys said, you know, how do you want to be seen? Okay, great. That's great. Branding yourself, great. What's important is when you come out of the clubhouse or the locker room and you see 5, 6, 10 scouts in the stands, put a show on for them. Is it super important what kids or other kids think about you, or is it important who's gonna offer you a scholarship, or who's interested in you? I think you really need to really focus on what's important. I don't caring about what other kids hate on you because you're a star athlete and they're not. They're going to say negative things about you. That's not important. What's important is coming out of that clubhouse and hustling on and off the field in front of all those clipboards and things that you see in the stands, because those are the people that are going to be making decisions on you.
100% agree with Tony. That's such great words right there. I mean, that's it. I've seen a kid, a girl who's at Cal right now. She had got eyes on her just from running down the right field line, hustling for a ball. And I know for a fact the coach was like, who's that kid? And now she's one of the starting 9 doing amazing things at Cal. And that's just a story that I like to tell kids, because that's what you should be paying attention to. Exactly what Tony said.
Awesome. You know, while we're talking about this subject, can you see these young ball players start getting a social media manager in the near future and the future moving up, or even just in high school to start off with, like a hitting coach or a pitching coach? I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out there as a knuckleball.
Yes, I do. I think that's something that's going on now in a lot of businesses. I run a business and there's a lot of people that are outside doing other people's social media, but I do think there needs to be the right people running your social media. I do think there's a lot of recruitment agencies that are doing some of this already. And, but you know, you have to make sure you shop accordingly and get the right people to be on your kids, you know, team, because, like I said, it would be an advantage. I just don't know how costly that would be for every family. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I would say you might want to be an All-American, or you might want to be something of that nature before you even take those steps. I mean, who wants to cover a guy who's going to go to a D3 or something out of high school? It's like, you know, don't waste your time with that. I mean, if you're not a D1 or a 5-star recruit or something like that, you might not even want to bother with any of this.
No.
And yet at the same time you know, even me as a kid, I always thought I was 5-star, you know, so then you have the problem that, and the parents think that they're even better than that. And so these kids have the pressures to have to deal with the fact that, you know, they may not be 5-star, but they sure as heck think they are. And their parents think that they are. So there's that pressure as well going into this whole social media thing, and that everybody, you know, thinks they're getting a scholarship or they're getting drafted or whatever it may be. So, you know, we have to deal with all that.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna start laughing because that's a whole nother can of worms that we can either get into real quick or we can just say, yeah, no, not right now.
That's
Either
not even
way, bad.
it's not a quick subject though. That's something that you could do 2 or 3 segments on that.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that's something I would definitely mark down for show later.
Right. But you
Yeah.
know what? The thing that I definitely believe in, and this is the big great part of this panel, is that we're all really good stewards of the game, and we also care about all of these kids, and we want to see them successful. And so this conversation is important because, boy, do we, you know, we grew up in a better era where we didn't have that microscope and the pressure and all that stuff. There's pressures, there was microscopes, but it's not what it is today. It could happen in a blink of an eye and you're out there, you know, you're exposed, and that's a lot to put on these kids now. And so as stewards of the game, as coaches, as people that care about these kids, this is important information. This is great stuff. You know, whether you think social media is a distraction or a new opportunity, there's one thing clear: it's not going anywhere.
No.
And so,
And the majority of the kids that we're coaching, if they stay in the game, they're going to be coaches and administrators. So that's, you know, the new generation of coaches and administrators of baseball and softball are going to be the ones that grew up in this era, in the beginning of this era, and they're going to be dealing with that.
yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
They're going to be the ones that'll figure it out, hopefully, because I know I wouldn't have it figured out.
I wouldn't want to deal with it
Yeah.
on an everyday basis.
Oh, right. Yeah. Who wants to deal with that either? You know, you just want to go out and play the game that you love.
Right.
Becoming more and more specialized and more, you have to do everything so perfectly now. And it's just harder. I mean, you came up through the game. I mean, your dad, right, came through the game. He's deals with and stuff like that. So you have a lot of that you have to deal with. What are we looking at for our future of our sports? And,
yeah, a lot of the old school coaches don't want to deal with this. They get out. There are a lot of good coaches that are getting out of the game because of some of these things that we're talking about.
Yeah, that was Nick Saban. I mean, he was straight up, yeah, I'm done. That's it. That's the big thing. He's just done it, even though his, you know, girlfriend's like 22 years old. But sorry, I had to throw that in there. Couldn't resist. Does anybody have any final words?
this was great stuff, and I just think this is incredible to have this panel like this to really go over such a you know, a big subject, which obviously, like we talked about, could go further and further and deeper. But you know, thank you all. You know, any athletes, coaches, and fans, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. You know, great question for anybody watching. Is social media helping the game evolve, or is it, you know, slowly eroding it, you know, taking away from what made, you know, sports great in the first place? Everybody, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone. And we will see you on the next show. Thank you. What up?